The Glades. By far one of the largest bases ever constructed on Constantiam.net. What made this base special wasn't just its enormous size, but the friendships that were made. The only reason why it even fell in the first place was due to a new player attempting to profit from the base. So prepare yourself as I tell you the story of the Glades. It all began in May 2022, after my previous main base, Constantiam, was destroyed and shown to the public. Whilst people that played at the time were amazed by my creation, I decided to take a short break from Constantiam. However, that didn't last long. June 2022, I had told some people that I began working on a new project. This is when a friend of mine, ElBunko, told me that he had a build idea and said to reach out to him if I would be interested. Since I was bored of just basing alone, I decided to reach out. Around June 9th, I had traveled to a new location which I ended up sharing with Bunko. It was a snowy biome with a jungle just around the corner. The plan was to make another Star Wars themed base, and so I nicknamed the location Constantiam 2. I later had the idea to make a district filled with a bunch of commie blocks. Yeah, no, I had no idea what I was doing, but nonetheless I began building. I built and built. This was also around the time when Bunko showed me the thing that he wanted to build. It was a huge statue of an angel going from ground to build height. Not much later, however, I began to have second thoughts about the Star Wars district, as I felt like that the different themes would be clashing with each other in an unpleasant way. So I decided to relocate about 10,000 blocks from the original site to a huge plains biome, where I came up with the idea of a huge Eastern European city, with the statue being in the center. Luckily, Bunko really liked this idea, and so on the 17th of June 2022, the construction on what would be the Glades officially began. I started by constructing the central roundabout, in which center Bunko began to build his statue. Progress was slow but steady. Not even a full month would pass and it was the 12th of July 2022. I had just about finished the central roundabout and began work on base castle when I saw a message in the public chat from 9733. He found the beginnings of a base with no signs or anything, just a simple road system and what seemed to be the beginnings of a huge statue. I didn't think much of this since there could have been a dozen of bases. Literally seconds later, Numbers Guy was stood in front of me. This was hilarious, but I also slightly panicked because I thought that I had removed all the portals in the nether. But I guess not. Luckily, Numbers Guy meant no harm and only left a sign, wished us good luck and left. Occasionally, he would pop in over to check in on the progress and donate us some materials. This was a close call. Not even a month after the base was founded and there was already a person who found it. I made sure to remove all the portals and make sure that this doesn't happen again. In the meantime, Bunko invited KiwiSlider to the base as a thanks for supplying us with bricks, which I used for the roofs on the small European houses I was working on. Progress continued as normal for about a month, when we were almost discovered again, this time by Certificated, who posted a screenshot in public Discord of the original location, which was 10,000 blocks away from the new one. Thankfully, I had admin powers inside of that Discord, so I managed to delete the screenshots and cover up the tracks. I went into the nether again to check for nether portals and sure enough, I had to remove more of them. This was just insane. What made this hollow deal worse was the fact that the base wasn't even a million blocks out from 0-0, and it was really close to my previous base Constantiam. I sure as hell didn't choose a good enough location to build one of the biggest bases on the server. But Certificated never ended up finding the actual base location, and so finally we continued working on the builds peacefully for about 2 years. Progress was steady. Bunko finished his statue, the base map part and was working on the road system of the center, whilst I finished the castle and was designing all of the houses and the church. The entire road system and the builds I was making grew to the size of around 600 by 500 blocks. But then December 2022 came, and Constantiam did what we all thought would never happen. The server updated from version 1.12.2 to 1.19.2 after being stuck on 1.12 for over half a decade. And it was officially the first more known old Anarchy server on the newest version. With this update came a huge influx of new players. Whilst in 1.12 the server was actively dying, and at peak hours you'd be able to see around 20 to 35 people online at all times, 1.19 made the server thrive again, with player numbers reaching anywhere from around 70 to 100 players online during peak hours. A lot of 1.12.2 bases began to fall due to base hunting, but also the beehive exploit, but surprisingly the glades remained. For now. With the new update I was able to start incorporating some of the new blocks into my builds, and overall give more color to the base. In May 2023, we ended up inviting two other players, Vaccei and Nightbringer 3. They ended up building a house each, and then just left and never showed up again. ElBunko became less and less active, to the point where 95% of the time it was just me online at the base. To say the least, activity was at an all-time low, with mostly me being the only one building. In around July 2023, I basically finished the entirety of the historic center of the glades, and so I moved on over to expanding the base further. I decided on the final size of 1310 by 1310 blocks. I slowly started marking out the outer ring road to get the picture of how big the base would be. I began filling out the terrain with a bunch of dirt and grass blocks. I was so desperate for dirt in fact that I made an entire trading post inside of the Constantiam trading platform Discord, looking for dirt. Of course, no one would ever take such a ridiculous order. I mean, who would want to deliver like 15,000 dirt shulkers? So I went into the dirt mines. I kept gathering more and more dirt until I was done with filling out the entire marked out area. Afterwards, I went into my creative test world and I designed 3 simple comic block designs. Remember, the base's theme was Eastern Europe, so I couldn't have an Eastern European city without comic blocks. Whilst the design was simple, the amount of white concrete I needed for all of them was insane. But luckily, 9733 was able to give me around 3 tubs of just white concrete, which I later on used to construct these monstrosities. I flew around the base with printer, building each commie block by block, until I was satisfied with the amount I made. Once this was done, I set my goals over to a different project at the base. I was going to make an entire modern district consisting of skyscrapers, but again, the materials needed were a problem at first. Shader, who's a friend of Numbers Guy, was invited over to the glades after he was able to donate me materials required for this district, and so the building began. It was quite quick, since this district out of the 3 at the space was the smallest one of them all. Once all of the main builds were done, such as the castle, the statue, the museum, the presidential palace, the glades radio station, the bridge, and so on, I moved my focus on trying to blend in the flat terrain into the natural one. I put up a large amount of Minecraft trees on the custom hills to make them more bushy, and I could move on over to the final stage of the building process. However, on March 24th, 2024, the base was found yet again, this time by a player that goes by the name of NaiHaz. He talked about it in chat, and luckily I was online on an alt account, so I was able to contact him via DMs and later talk to him through Discord. Now, in order for you all to understand the situation a bit better, I need to go into somewhat of more detail. Whilst we were talking, me and Ediska told NaiHaz that he could share screenshots of the base in the Discord server of the base. But NaiHaz misunderstood and he accidentally shared the screenshots of the base in the Constantiam trading platform Discord, in CTP. A public Discord which everyone from the community has access to. HennyCrafter1, who had mod powers in the server, noticed this and quickly deleted the screenshots from the channel. Then he warned me via Discord about this. However, whilst me and Henny were talking, I found out that Henny also found the base sometime in May, but was too scared to tell us because he didn't want to cause panic. So according to this, the glades were now found 3 and almost 4 times. I once again checked in the nether for portals and removed them again. Not long after, I continued working on the base, building and so on, when Henny messaged me again, a screenshot of a Discord conversation he had with a player by the name of Alex1. NaiHaz shared some screenshots of the base to Alex1, who was dumbfounded by the base, and even questioned whether or not the base was real. I then confronted NaiHaz about this and told him not to share any pictures to anyone outside of the base again. After this whole deal, I realized that the base might not be around for much longer, if it's going to keep getting found and shared around like this. I decided to invite some people from the Vale over to the Glades to come and help me with the final phase of the base, forestation. I designed 2 simple custom trees in creative mode and then used a mod called Axiom to place them around the base at the world download. After this, I took a schematic of said trees and began constructing them with the help of boojr and carpfinder. But we ran into a huge problem. In order for us to be able to build all these trees and to finish the base as a whole, we needed to get somewhere around 900,000 leaves. At first I tried to ask Kiwi and Giza if they had any, but unfortunately they didn't. Carpfinder would later make a trade post on the CTP in which he expressed the interest of trading any type of items for the leaves. But once again, no response from anybody. So the only option left was to gather them manually. Myself, Carpfinder, boojr and OGKult would go on a giant leaf mining rampage. Slowly, the word would spread that we were gathering all these leaf blocks, and most of the people were really confused about this, as to why we were doing this. Well, now we know why we needed 900,000 leaves. We literally demolished almost 3 giant dark oak forests to get our leaves. Once we got them, we built and built and built. Then, thanks to all this effort, on May 30th, 2024, the base was complete, almost 2 years after it was co-founded by myself and ElBunko. And to say the least, we were lucky to finish it on the 30th of May, as not long after, on June 9th, 2024, I received a message from Ediska telling me that the base's stash was robbed by a group of people that go by the name of Blackhand. So this was officially the 4th time the base was found, and this time we weren't so lucky. But what was odd about this was that nobody had ever heard of Blackhand before, so we couldn't really solve what actually happened or even connect the dots who the Blackhand is. Once the stash got stolen, I started inviting people to the Glades, but then the server shut down for a month due to map corruption. Not long after the server came back up, on the 2nd of August 2024, the base was found for the 5th time. However, this time our luck finally ran out. A new player by the name of BBG found the base and attempted to trade the base coordinates in return for a dupe stash. The word about this quickly began to spread, and so not wanting to give this random new player the satisfaction of getting a dupe stash, and the random griefer the satisfaction of griefing the base, we decided to take the matter into our own hands. August 8th, 2024, the Doomsday. As a matter of fact, the base was so huge that it took 7 of us over 3 hours of straight up griefing, and we still didn't even do a good enough job, as the base is still recognizable. This just goes to show how massive the Glades actually were. But that's it, the Glades are no more, and only the friends we made along the way remain. Whilst I did have plans to expand the base past the 1.3k by 1.3k perimeter, unfortunately the lack of time and luck got us. But this just means that we can move on to different projects now. And who knows, maybe there are Glades too somewhere on the server. And lastly, I would like to thank all the players who helped me with the construction of this base, as well as the people who only visited. Without you, it wouldn't be possible. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.